My name is Jesse Kachapis. I'm an SC with Druva, and I'll be walking through the inSync overview right now. So like the previous gentleman said, we are inSync is our product line for endpoints, right? So endpoint data, mobile devices to a certain degree, and cloud applications, right? So the whole stack of products today is still endpoints, or it's end user data, right? All these laptops, right? Everyone's still creating data out on these devices. There's a lot of attacks that are going on now, and they're just evolving over time, right? So ransomware is just a perfect example of a semi-new attack that's just growing in severity. Users deleting files, it still exists, right? I mean, that's the number one use case right now is someone blows away their PowerPoint and then they got to restore it. I mean, it happens a lot. And, ultimately it's a business that has to get kind of take that cost on. Stolen laptops, failed damage, right? Submerged, people drop their, we do have stories of, laptops falling off the boat into the water, right? I mean, end users can get themselves into a lot of different situations, right, when they have control of their data. Things like migrating between OS versions, right? So it's a great use case for us, right? We have all that data, and we have the ability to, back up, in a refresh stage, new laptops and be able to migrate that data from one laptop to another laptop. Try restoring deleted data for a user from a SaaS app. This comes up a lot as well for our cloud applications solution. Employee leaves the company, you have a choice. You can keep that license active, right, and store their data, or you can have a backup copy or a long-term archive copy, and that's what we can position our cloud apps archiving for. And so going beyond backup, and this is really what I find cool about the technology, right, and one of the things that being a cloud enables us to do, right, is build additional services on the data that we're storing post backup. So I'm going to show you some of this, but from a governance standpoint, data collection and preservation. We do have a lot of customers that we are storing all their employee data in our cloud forever, right? A lot of highly regulated industries. From a legal hold standpoint, and I'll walk you through this as well, but we have we have the ability to create a legal administrator within our solution that can log into the product and call through the information, search for files, put users on legal hold, right? Create legal hold kind of pools, put the custodians in there, and freeze that data, right? Between either all the data or a certain time frame, and I'll show you all that. But then being able to give third-party access into that data once it's being preserved. So we have partners in the discovery space. They plug straight into our archive, and they can extract that data right out. So we can cull that data down to just the important stuff and then hand it over to somebody else. And a legal administrator can do this. Doesn't have to be the IT department at this point. Data pre-culling and enterprise search, right? This is a cost savings for customers, right? It's a needle in a haystack. So it's instead of copying all the data and throwing it somewhere, the ability just to cull through it and get what you need and then put it over. Risk and compliance, so proactive compliance is a license feature in the solution. What that does is if you can set a policy that says if we find a document with social security numbers on it, raise an alert. And then you can raise the alert and you can go in there and you can delete the file from the user's machine. Or you can delete it from the backup as well if you needed to do that. So the ability to just providing that visibility in there that, hey, that file shouldn't be out there. That data shouldn't be floating around on that user's laptop. Anomaly detection, right? This is the kind of the machine learning. So it's kind of historical based, but the idea that if someone is backing up for 30 days and everything's running fine, then all of a sudden you get 1 million files changed on their system, it points to something probably fishy occurred. So we can extract there and bubble up that strange activity there. And I mentioned the defensible deletion, but again, just the ability to wipe out a file that shouldn't be on someone's machine, and so you don't get into a situation. So inSync, right? So user data backup and recovery, laptop, mobile devices. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the backup piece. It's very powerful, but it's kind of boring. But it's incredibly important to everything else that we do afterwards. So from a cloud application standpoint, we integrate with the G Suite, Office 365, Salesforce, and Box. Right, it's just an API integration. It'd be the ability to create policies to back up the user data from those clouds into our cloud. Why is that important? Is that it's user data, right? It falls into inSync because it is user data, right? So my OneDrive data is user data. My inbox is in Exchange Online is user data. So we're able to pull all that user data, whether it's on a physical laptop or a cloud application, into a single bucket. and then index it and use it for what you need it for.
You may have said, excuse me, you may have said it or you may not, I may have missed it, but how do you actually deploy your endpoint clients to these devices, and how do you manage all of that?
So that's all done through like SCCM and stuff. So it's a client push. We integrate with LDAP or AD or SSO, and so we can automate the entire thing. Actually, probably some good examples, but we've pushed out 60,000 devices in a very short period of time.
Right, and you manage things like the maintenance of that and the distribution of new patching and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So everything is managed. So what's cool about it is after everything is deployed, all the like upgrades and everything else is essentially managed through us. So you can push it all through.
Okay, and what about things like detecting whether you're connected to a decent network to do backup?
All automatic.
All that sort of stuff. That's all.
It's all self-sensing. so the solution was built for mobile data, right? So it was built for a laptop. It's built for it to go up and down, close, go from network to network.
Right. Okay.
So it doesn't even try to run a backup if the network's not there. And then the next time, if it was scheduled to run the next time you get a connection, and it'll kick off in the background.
Okay, you can do things like not backing up across 3G or something like that if you wanted to.
Yeah, you can block all that stuff as well. Yep, absolutely. Good questions. And the whole goal of the solution is to be in quiet. The end user does not know it's running. And we have customers, you can run it in headless mode. So we actually have customers who, 10,000 users, they don't even know it's running because they do it from a compliance standpoint. The others that just interact with it. So governance and management standpoint, e-discovery enablement, enterprise search, legal hold compliance, anomaly detection, device migrations, archiving. You can notice, backup again is core, backup restore core to the application itself, but again, driving more value out of that data as we go on.
How are you training your anomaly detection model? Are you using data from all your tenants to train a model and then spitting it back out?
Good.
We're training on the particular customer themselves. We're not doing cross training, but these events are local to a customer. Right. How their consumption is, how frequently are they backing up, how they're changing. So the algorithm learns over the first 36 backups per user, and then starts to over time train. So it takes a fun time, but it's local to a company.
Okay. And are you leveraging native ML services in AWS for that, or are you using your own
native ML services?
Okay.
Well, it's not it's just basic anomalies around the entropy of data, but these are native to AWS services.
Okay.
Okay, so let's get to the demo here. So this is just e-discovery workflow here. I mentioned this is what the anomaly detection looks like, just so you have an idea. So it has a historical kind of comparison, and then here's where the anomaly occurred. And it was all because of new files created and stuff like that. All right.
So what did the system do when that anomaly?
It just raised the alert. So we're telling you which snapshot is affected. So the idea now is that you can run a report and see anomaly detection. So you can say, okay, now we can investigate what happened here, and you can delete that snapshot, right? So you can say, okay, maybe if it was a ransomware attack, right?
Yeah.
Now you know where it occurred. You know what backup copy is actually affected. We can actually delete that snapshot out, and then all the other ones are still safe.
How sensitive is the algorithm behind the anomaly detection?
That's a good question.
Meant to be a first line of defense, a second line of defense. It's an alerting. We don't have authority to be security experts here. So all we are telling you is that there is anomaly here and a security alerting here for a couple of reasons. One, second line of defense, because we are visible into all the data. And second is that even though a security software may tell you that the threat vector happened on this device, this date, a mass recovery takes a long time. So you have to have thousands of systems to recover. It takes a long time. So color coding or marking, putting right amount of pointers in the backup sets will actually help you recover very well as well. So you can correlate the markers and I get it, the markers are right. They help me recover completely before this marker and incrementally after the marker. This is more meant to be a second line of defense and a recovery mechanism versus prevention mechanism.
Okay.
And it's not super sensitive because customers still, but it can be tweaked. It's not super sensitive. Then it's based on some entropy, but customers can to some extent tweak it.
So this is the inSync console. So now I'm going to show you inSync and then in Phoenix. So again, this is end user focused. But what we do is we kind of give you the top level dashboard. So it's a global view of your environment. So if you kind of picture this, but with 100,000 devices out there, You can see how well this would scale. And then, we're giving you just information about where the devices are, where the users are, and so on. So in this case, this is where any of the devices in this demo environment have existed. When we break it down by, we give your licensing information on the left-hand side. Then we have our data utilization. So we break it down on what we call profiles. Profiles are essentially groups. Those can be mapped to like an AD group, so it could be location-based, region-based, whatever you want to do. And then we have our file types and then our data sources, right? So devices, Google Drive, and all the other cloud applications. And then under, we have just a summary from a backup restore status standpoint. We have an integrated sync and share solution, so some of our customers leverage it. But if they, it's just a licensable feature in the solution if they want to use it, right? It's the ability to create a folder and then share, internally with other employees. You can do centralized kind of what we call administrative shares. So the administrators can set up, we have a sales share, and all the people in the sales organization have access to it. So anything you put in there kind of syncs across, all the new updated documentation's there and so on. So it's a nice feature to have.
Can you do selective sync with that?
We can, yeah.
Okay, so that's sort of directly competing with things like OneDrive and
Sure,
Dropbox.
yeah. Okay. So it's just built into the solution. It's a nice thing to have, like our customers, right? We don't generally go straight in a competitive situation with just our sync and share, right? We kind of do the whole solution.
And is there a sort of web UI or anything?
There is,
like that?
yeah. There's a web UI, there's a mobile app. So anything that's being backed up from my device, if the customer wants it, they can use the mobile application as well. So if I need a PDF that's been backed up off of there, so I can pull it up right from my phone, email it out.
On your phone, is that read-only, or is that something you can edit?
You can open it in another application, yeah. So you have the ability to open as or open in. Yeah.
So is that any of the files that are backed up on that person's laptop, or anything that's in sync and share?
Yeah. It's anything that's anything we touch, yeah.
So the whole thing becomes that kind of OneDrive kind of idea, not just what you're putting.
Not just that one folder, right? So anything backed up in here, my desktop, my documents, and everything else can be accessed from my mobile device, yeah, or a web browser as well. And then I can share something externally, so I could send you a link to a file that you'll get. I could email it to you. You get a link, and I can set parameters on that to say expire this after 10 days, or 2 downloads. I can block downloads. I can do things like that. Yeah.
So this goes into that whole 50% of the organization's data is outside of our four walls type of deal. What happens when I need to retain that data set? So if I make it available in the web, someone edits that document or downloads it, how do I track that?
So we generally don't, right? So that's why it's not a document management system, right? It is a sync and share solution, right? So if this is, again, it's an option, right? So you don't have customers don't have to use it, right? So I'd say, a good.
So if my policy is that I don't do this, I don't enable.
You don't use it,
okay. Right?
Okay. You turn it off, yeah.
If I can't track it, if I have to track all my data,
exactly,
I wouldn't enable this feature.
Exactly. Okay. You're gonna have tighter restrictions. Everything in this solution is like there's knobs and dials to it, right? You can set. Turn on features, turn off features, do it by organization, do it by mapping in AD, right? Maybe your C-suite gets everything, but the engineers don't get everything, right? So you have that ability to manage very granularly. And then, so let's go. I'm going to, again, like I said, I'm going to skip the backup and recovery stuff, and I'm going to go right into really the governance engine of this, because I think this is where separates us. So from the first thing I want to show you here is the proactive compliance, all right? So this is the thing, simplifying it, the idea that you can create a policy that looks at the data and reports on the content of it. So what we're doing is we're doing full text indexing of the data on the back end. So we back up a user's machine. If you've enabled this feature, you can set these policies. Again, we have pre-canned ones, HIPAA, whatever, and PII data, then you can create your own custom one. So if you did say you wanted to make sure that, again, no one has personal PII data out on their laptop, right? They don't have their social security numbers out there. You can set that alert. It comes, the user machine backs up, we index the data, we see that data, we alert to it, it shows up in here as a violation. All right, so as an example, so let's just use this guy here. So if I wanted to, I can see the violation, which policy they violated here. I can go to the actual file itself, and then I can either download it and view it, right? Again, this this type of activity might not be the IT, right? This is probably the security department, security teams that are dealing with this. And then I can view it and then say I want to resolve it, I want to take action. I have 4 options here, but probably the most important one is the delete function, and I can delete that file from that source, right, that user's laptop, and I can also delete it from all the snapshots, all the backup copies of it if I had to.
Are you able to set policies such that it might be allowed in certain data sets but not other data sets?
Yes.
Yeah.
You can map that to the corresponding profile.
To profiles, right? Yeah, so you would do it on profiles. Yeah, so you could say, yeah, this group of people, it's okay. They can have anything they want, right? And this group of people shouldn't have it. So yeah, that would be the profile in the groups. And again, profiles can be mapped to Active Directory as well to make it easier to manage. So that's the proactive compliance piece. I know I'm going quickly here, but time is the essence. Legal hold. So this is another big driver for us. The ability to put actual legal holds on data, right? I get a litigation request as a legal department, and the traditional workflow was they came, they grabbed your laptop, they imaged it, they pulled out the hard drive, did whatever they need to get that data off of that, and then they gave you your laptop back afterwards, right? We've dealt with customers, but that was a week-long process for each one, right? It's literally either shipping that thing to IT. Our value here is that we have all the data. It's all in here. We're protecting all that to begin with, right? Again, under the assumption it's backup and recovery, right? But now that we have a copy of that data, we have it all in one single repository. So from a legal hold standpoint, we've created an entire workflow. So if I was going to create a legal hold here, I can add in individual emails, right? Individual users, or say I get the request and they say these are the custodians. They send me the email in a spreadsheet format. I can simply just upload this into my system, and then there are all the users that I'm going to put on hold. And then I walk through. I can either do all the backup data, right? So this is everything they've ever backed up, all the versions, everything since the beginning of time. I can just do the last backup data, or I could do a specific date range, right? So this is, again, the ability to cull down what's being stored, what's being retained, and from a visibility standpoint. So this is say I want to do all backup. I'll go back up here and do all backup. Click finish. So now that legal hold has been created, right? And what that means is that data it's immutable, right? Retention policies don't apply to it anymore. You can't delete the users, you can't delete the data. It is sitting in our cloud, completely isolated. There's multiple ways to get into the data. So, there's one thing we can do here is email a legal report. So we do have sort of a chain of custody report. So it's showing that the data was, frozen on this day and hasn't been tampered with and all that stuff. And then from an access standpoint, from a user, I can add additional custodians or users if I had to. But then from a data access standpoint, what we do is we create the web dev link. And so you can actually browse through it, right? You can mount that and browse through the files and then, download them to your machine. But then most popular is going to be integrating that with some third-party application from an e-discovery standpoint. So we have partnerships with 3 or 4 already. Actually, I think it's more than that. But the idea is that all they got to do is take that link, put it into their system, extract the data straight out into theirs. So we sit, if you look at the EDRN model, we're sort of at the beginning of it, right? The first 3 or 4 steps, the collection, preservation.
So you're not doing the discovery portion of it. You're not doing all the complex queries and weird things they like to do and tagging stuff. Just here's the information, go.
Exactly, yeah.
And it's just a point in time. You're not doing continual updates to that?
So for legal hold, it stops, right? The hold.
Not
So
always.
it's totally up to implementation. So depending on what option you choose, it can be either point in time, the latest copy,
Yep.
or it can be all of the data that we have in the system, or it could be between a particular date range.
I think
So it all
ongoing, though,
depends
don't
on implementation between our system and the e-discovery system. But all permutation combinations are possible.
Do you not mean ongoing?
Well, I was asking about ongoing as well, because in some cases it
Yeah.
can be ongoing.
So with some of the partners that we already have, that can be done. So basically what the partner e-discovery system needs to do, they need to keep a checkpointing, a dictionary, if you will, and then over a period of time, it can request incremental update.
Okay, but what Druva's doing is just a fixed period of time, whether it's a range or the entire
We can
data
provide
set.
you any permutation combination of data access that we have in the system, including a particular time range. So it really depends on the...
Let me ask the question a different way. You can provide me with a snapshot of any subset of the data you have. But in terms of any new updates, that needs to leverage a third party. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, so as long as the third-party system has the ability to extract incremental data, which means having a dictionary of existing data, we can provide that functionality.
Typically, legal holds are like point in time, right? So that's what we've done.
Typically, but not always.
And you can have overlapping legal holds also. You can have multiple legal holds per custodian, and you can have overlapping as well. And most people, when they go to the advanced functionality, most people don't even come here to do the legal hold management. They use APIs. We have integration with top 5 e-discovery softwares, Extero, Recommind, Semantic, and then they use those platforms to extract data. That's his point.
So they have an API integration to go, right, actually place the legal holds.
Some of them have direct agents built in, like Recommind, you have direct agent built into it, direct integration. You can download Druva as an agent. Others have WebDAV with Druva extensions. So extensions, APIs, but yeah, we have built integration top 5 firms.